Hey, so welcome back to my channel. It's been a little while. If you haven't seen the past couple of videos that I filmed, I will link them below, but I basically have been doing just a couple of videos sharing my story because it was back in 2017. I was hospitalized in like an inpatient program for my eating disorder. So the last video I made, I sort of just talked about my overview of my experience in hospital. And then for the video today, I was wanting to make this a lot earlier, but I'm going to basically just go into more details about sort of like the food rules and dining room rules and just sort of all that sort of stuff, just sharing my experience and what it was like. And also too, if you see me looking down a lot, I just have stuff written down that I'm referring to. Okay. So basically the structure of the meals and when we ate at hospital was broken down into we would have breakfast at 7:30 a.m. every morning, and then morning tea was at 10 a.m. Lunch was at 12:15. Afternoon tea was at 3 o'clock. Dinner and dessert we had together at 5:20, which seemed very early. And then we had supper at 8 p.m. And then we sort of had like our free time or like group therapy or whatever it was in between. And then also to just starting off first, they do cater for if you are vegetarian but not vegan, which I am a vegan, and I'm vegan for purely ethical reasons. So that was really, really hard. Having to eat animal products again because it had been a long time, and it didn't get easier to do, but it was basically, I didn't have a choice. Yeah, but I mean, I do have to be grateful that I didn't have to eat meat. I wasn't actually eating the flesh of an animal, but yeah. So when you are first admitted to the hospital, you're sort of on what they call staff serve. So that's where the staff is basically serving up all your meals, even like water. They have to pour your water, and basically when you get into like the dining room area, that's what, yeah, I should have probably said first. We had from our ward, we would all go at the same time. There was probably 10 of us in like the eating disorder ward, and we'd sit at our tables. There was normally 2 tables, and then there was sort of another separate little kitchen type area where other like people at the hospital or whatever would eat, but we had our own little section. So basically when you first get there and are on staff serve, you just come and you sit right down at the tables, and the staff would just do like everything. They would do your condiments, season like salt and pepper, everything. When you are like, then if you are finishing your meals and if you're making like progressing well, I guess, then you're on self-serve. So that's where the staff, they say for breakfast, for example, in the morning you will go up to like the nurse or whoever was on ward duty that morning in the kitchen. You'd go up, they read off their list, and they'd be like, okay, you're having this cereal today. So you could go then and pour your own cereal and milk. Obviously that is all supervised too, just to making sure you're doing the correct amounts. And then, yeah, you can pour your own drinks, make your own tea or coffee. I'm trying to think what else it was. But yeah, so it was pretty much just gave you that little bit more freedom. And then when you, again, your progress does depend if you are continually finishing meals and all that, then you can move up to the next level, which is self-select. Now, when I moved up on that, for me, it didn't have like, it wasn't too much of a difference to the self-serve, but basically it was the night before, when they'd get the menus and stuff organized for the caterers at the hospital. You could choose your cereal that you want for breakfast. You can choose what you have for lunch. There's only 2 options though. You choose what you have for lunch, you can choose your afternoon tea, snack, and your dinner. Now for me, it was mainly then just choosing what cereal I wanted at breakfast and what I wanted for my afternoon snack, just because lunch and dinner there was like the vegetarian option and the non-vegetarian option. So obviously I would always just have the vegetarian option, but for those that weren't vegetarian, they did get to have that choice, which again, it just gives you that little bit more freedom to sort of choose and do all that. And then now for the timings for the meals, for main meals, so for breakfast, lunch and dinner, we were timed 20 minutes. So in that time we had to finish the meal, and whatever we don't finish, we then just have to wait. Everyone will go back to the ward, and then you get a supplement drink to make sure you're still getting those needs, which the hospital I was at used Ensure. I think that's most places do use that. So if you had like a lot of your meal left over, you had to have quite a large amount of it, and even if you only left the tiniest bit of food left over, you did still have to have the supplement. And they did tell you, I don't know exactly what it was, but it's a certain amount of times if you're consistently not finishing your meals, then yeah, you won't get to go up to like either the self-serve or self-select and stuff. And then as I mentioned in the previous video, it could mean you won't get to go on leave if you're not finishing your meals and all that. And then for snacks, so for morning tea, afternoon tea, and what's it called, supper, you get 15 minutes just because then not as much food then. And then every now and then we had occasionally, I don't know exactly how they worked this, the staff would eat with us. So sometimes like, yeah, it'd just be like one meal a day. So like sometimes they would have just morning tea with us, or they would have an actual meal with us. It wasn't very often, but we all did really appreciate when they did. But I mean, we did debate a lot too with like the staff, like the nurses and stuff, why can't you do it with every meal? Because rather than like, we'd have 2 tables and there'd be a nurse at the head of each table literally just watching us. So it felt a lot more comfortable if they were actually eating too, and it helped us to sort of get into our head and we'll normalize eating patterns. Like, so yeah, on that note with the staff, like the nurses sitting at the tables, they'd basically just watch us to make sure that we were like using the utensils supplied. We weren't sort of just like picking at food, or just they're monitoring us and just sort of letting us be aware of if we have any like disordered habits, like eating in a particular order, or just anything that's sort of weird they would sort of pick up on. And or if we're taking like 2 small bites, they sort of just try to help us regulate into that normal eating routine. And yeah, so it was sort of just that's like the gist of it, and breakdown roughly for what we did actually eat. It's kind of, it varied, but at the same time it was sort of very familiar food. So like, as I said before, breakfast every day was cereal. And then obviously like as you go along, like depending on what your weight is doing, because I think a lot of people just assume being like impatient, suffer an eating disorder, is severely malnourished and underweight people, which is not the case. Lots of people with different, as we don't even really go into it, we don't know what they're dealing with, we just know that they have an unhealthy relationship with food basically. But for those that did need to gain weight, they would be monitored at the weigh-ins. If they still weren't gaining weight, they would have meal increases, which the first increase side then with breakfast, you would actually get fruit added to your cereal. So yeah, basically, yeah, breakfast was cereal with the choice of, they actually did have soy milk, which on my first morning there, I was so happy. I was like, yes, like I don't have to have cow's milk. But basically, yeah, breakfast, we had the choice. The cereals were Wheat Bix, All Brand, Sultana brand, really nice muesli stuff that they had, and I feel like there was more, I actually can't think. It was definitely, yeah, no exciting sort of cereals. Yeah, I can't think, there must have been more, but yeah, that, and then, yeah, if you do, which I eventually did have to get an increase, got fruit added on top. So that sort of just depended on what fruit they sort of had. It would either be like a banana, or they had just like tinned pears, or I think there's something like prunes or something yuck like that. And then morning tea was always a cake of some type. So it was sort of just something sweet, whether it was like a slice of like sweet bread, like banana bread, or we had little pastries or like cookies, or just something, yeah, sweet along those lines. Lunch did change. A lot of the times it was a sandwich of some variety. So sometimes they had the vegetarian choice, like a veggie patty, like a faux meat type patty with some salads, or we had a lot of egg and cheese sandwiches, which were disgusting. I was sort of trying to look past the whole vegan thing and be like, okay, well, this food I used to eat, like I'm just gonna, this is like my one chance to have it. I was like trying to like appreciate the taste of it, but nah, I just, so many egg and cheese sandwiches. The bread was heavily buttered as well. Obviously they're just trying to get in a lot of calories without overwhelming you with a huge volume of food. But yeah, sometimes like sometimes it was like a pumpkin soup type thing, or we'd have I'm trying to think, but yeah, mostly it was sandwiches, but every now and then they would mix it up. Afternoon tea was normally like a savoury choice. They did have sweet cream biscuits, which you could sometimes have. I remember my first day there, I had my afternoon tea was like Vita wheat biscuits with cheese and butter, and I just had to run out of the room crying because that was like the first time that I had like an animal product in such a long time. And I was like saying to the nurse, she came out with me, she's like, it's okay, and I'm like, it's not even the food, like it was hard enough because I'd been severely restricting, so it was hard enough for me to eat, but like, having it been animal products, I was just losing it. And honestly, it didn't get easier. I did learn how to, I guess, accept and cope with having to eat animal products. Yeah, so when I got up to the self-select, I was very happy choosing to not have to like do that. But the other choices for afternoon tea, sometimes you just get like a muesli bar, or you could have like Vita Wheats with peanut butter, which is what I opted for a lot, or nuts. It was like a mix of like nuts and dried fruits, and they had like a little glass type serving thing that you get the right amount. Or yeah, sometimes it was like sweet biscuits, like they had like shortbread creams or like Tim Tams and stuff like that. I'm trying to think. I think that was sort of all. Dinner did sometimes often change up a bit. Sometimes it'd be like quiche, or sometimes we'd have quiche for lunch as well, or like pizza type thing. But we'd have either, yeah, it'd be like quiche with salad, or we'd have like either like a pasta bake type thing, like pasta in a creamy sauce with salad, or we'd have like a little bean casserole thing. So whether it was like lentils or chickpeas or whatever, with like that and like baked vegetables and just, you know, that type of like, nothing overly exciting, but I mean just enough food to get in. And then we would have after dinner, then we'd have 10 minutes for dessert, and that changed. That would either be, sometimes it was just like 2 scoops of ice cream, or like it was often just little mini things like a mini cake or cheesecake, or sometimes we had like mini like pavlovas. It was literally just like a tiny little thing, but that was always really hard because we just had like this huge dinner, and then we have to like eat. Yes, we had that, and then afterwards for supper, which was like a bit after, would always just be a piece of fruit, and yeah, that we could choose it with. They didn't have like that much to choose from. You could either have like a banana, an apple, or like 2 mandarins, I think, or there was pears as well. I normally just had like a banana, and that's all it was. And then also I'm sorry, this video is all over the place. I wrote stuff down, I prepared, it's a lot of information. But basically we could have 2 for, I think it was morning tea, afternoon tea, and supper, like the sort of snacks. We could have, they had like a tea and coffee machine. We just couldn't have though for morning tea, we could have coffee and like caffeinated drinks, but from afternoon tea and supper, like we had to just have, yeah, no caffeine, because they just didn't want us up all night basically. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm pretty sure that is like just about it. I do plan, and I know I said this last video and the video before, but I really do want to make more videos about whether or not it's been my actual experience in hospital, or just my experience with like my eating disorder and like just mental health in general. I just, yeah, want to get this out because I know before I went into hospital, I was really just trying to prepare myself as best as I can for what to expect going into hospital. I know I covered a lot of stuff in the last video as well, but I'll put that in. Definitely watch it because, as I said, I did give a lot of information in that video as well. If you do have any other questions, just leave them below and I will respond to comments. If you have any other suggestions or things you'd like me to go more in depth in as well, yeah, leave a comment and I will make another video for it, because I will start to be more proactive and filming this and just putting it out to the world. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to sign off for today. I really appreciate it if you got to the end of this video. I know it was very long. I tried to be as to the point as possible. But anyway, I promise there will be more videos coming soon, so stay tuned for them. Yeah, until then, bye.